Football Club. Before we start, as always, a huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community, because we couldn't make the show each week without your loyal support. And a big welcome this week to some new names: Mark McGuinness, Ricky, and Michael Keversham, who have all joined our TSP supporter tier. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate your support. Coming up on the podcast this week, Saints thrashed Charlton 5-1 at the Valley on an afternoon where it all seemed to click. So we will take great satisfaction in looking back over that win. And it's another busy week ahead. We are at home to Leicester on Tuesday night, and Reedy from Leicester Fan TV is going to join us later to preview that game. My name is Martin Stark. Joining me this week on the podcast, Glenda LaCour, who is writer of the blog League 1-10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter for the Daily Echo. So 4 goals in 8 minutes. It was the stuff of dreams. I couldn't believe what I was watching yesterday. So much to get into. Nathan Jones said it was the best Southampton have played all season. Is that a fair comment, Alfie?
Yeah, it's the best Southampton have played for a long time. I mean, I know we beat teams sort of 5-0, 4-0 under Russell Martin about this time in 2023, and then that goes back to those performances. It was good as anything we've seen since then, and maybe it was better than what we saw then as well. Who knows? But I think Leo Cienza set the tone straight away in the match. I think one of his first touches was sort of bringing down a smash ball forward and jinking around one defender, Megs in another, and setting up a really good chance for Caspar Jander. And then, you know, he set up another one for Finn Azaz, or maybe it was Tom Fellows a couple of minutes later, and Azaz should have scored. I think it was Cienzo who squared it across the box to him. He took a heavy touch, and it was a good save from the goalkeeper. But Saints could have been 2 goals up in 10 minutes, to be honest with you. But then after that, you know, the floodgates did open, and I'll leave Glenn to talk about the opposition manager a little bit later on. But, you know, goal number 1 in the 14th minute is a Tom Fellows cross, a Ryan Manning header, but it starts from the back. It's playing out from the back. It's really good. The defending's poor. Goal number 2 is in the 16th minute. You know, Leo Cienza, a pass through to Adam Armstrong, a driving run from Leo Cienza. You know, Armour gets a little bit lucky with the rebound, but there's 2 goals up in 16 minutes, and we're all thinking this is brilliant. And then 20 minutes, get goal number 3. Another Armstrong pass this time. Caspar Jander, great finish. Again, it's a brilliant pass, a brilliant move out the back. They're knocking it between Gavin Mazzuni, between the centre halves, and then within 3 passes, Cameron Bragg, a square pass, Harwood-Bellis, 1 pass forward, and then Armour plays it in behind, and Caspar Jander finishes it. And it's 3 goals up in 20 minutes. 22nd minute, 4th goal, Adam Armstrong pass. You know, Zaz rounds the goalkeeper, and again, it's, you know, there's a moment where Jack Stevens has got the ball. All 3 defenders have touched it. Cameron Bragg has touched it. He then steps forward, and it's 2 or 3 passes again from the half of the pitch into the back of the net. And, you know, it's some of the best stuff I've ever seen. And, you know, Nathan Jones did then make a change, and I think he could see that basically he wanted his team to be aggressive. He wanted his team to come out and attack Saints and to press them everywhere on the pitch. But they were sort of half doing it, half not. They were coming out, they were leaving spaces, but they weren't actually getting anywhere near the ball. They weren't putting any pressure on the Saints players, so they were just knocking it around them. And, you know, you had 2 or 3 runners in the final line every single time, and Adam Armstrong was brilliant. Adam Armstrong's the best performance I think I've ever seen from him in any position, but especially as a number 9. Playing like Che Adams for me, dropping into, you know, the halfway line and knocking it to the 2 runners either side, and it's some brilliant stuff. And then obviously we had the other 2 goals in the game just before half-time. You know, Tom Fellows, a little cross-come shot into the back post. Azaz finishes it for a brace. And then we had the poor goal conceded, to be fair. If we're being really nitpicky, I know we were 5 goals up, but it's a completely unmarked header from a corner right before half-time that makes it 5-1. So it's still no clean sheet under Tonda Eckert. But what an amazing first half. What an absolutely brilliant bunch of goals. And it's 3 wins in 3 for the interim boss.
As I said, there's so much to get into. Adam Armstrong, you know, he's, as you say, they're his best game in years. We need to talk about Fellows and the wingers, and Cam Bragg as well. And it's difficult to know where to start, Glenn, because there was so much that went right, and we could have been a couple of goals up before we actually did take the lead, because there were some chances that we missed as well.
Yeah, and you get to that point where you've had sort of like a couple of decent chances. The Azaz one in particular, Adam Armstrong put a header over the bar, which wasn't great either. And, you know, you sort of think, oh, is it going to be another one of those where we miss chances and then Charlton score with their first attack? But we kind of mitigated that by not letting them have an attack. It was it was brilliant stuff. And once the first goal went in, it was just ridiculous from then on in. It was just like you couldn't believe what I was watching. As you said, you know, we just absolutely tore them to shreds. Helped by Charlton being woeful I mean, to be honest, I mean, yeah, Alfie touched on it. The front four sort of had a half-assed attempt at pressing our defenders, but they were easy to play round. And once we played round them, the Charlton defence and midfield weren't pushing up aggressively. So what that meant was a huge space in the middle of the park. Adam Armstrong dropped into it. Caspar Jander and Cameron Bragg ended up there, and they could just build up at will, but again, it's a lot more impressive what we're doing once we break the lines. This was always the problem we had going back to the Russell Martin days, is that when we broke the lines, we tended to stop and let everyone funnel back, and we just weren't doing that. It was like pass forward, through on goal, shot, and goal virtually every time for those for those 10 minutes. So there definitely has been a shift in the attitude with regards to when we do start going forward, we keep going forward. There's not so much sort of like everyone going, oh no, we can't do that, and stopping and letting everyone get back. So Cienza sets the tone, because he just has no thought of playing it safe or going backwards. And you look at that second goal, he gets the ball, he's kind of hemmed in, he's got two players behind him. And what we've seen for the longest time with Saints is that ball just gets played back to the left back, then it gets played to the centre back or whatever. And he just like senses the guy's on his shoulder. He senses there's a gap. He turns, he's gone. They should have brought him down. I mean, they clearly should have taken a yellow card there. But he gets to the edge of the box, slips it to Adam Armstrong, and that's the second goal, and that's game over. But that intent just wouldn't have been there, and you get the impression that that is Cienza. That's what he wants to do, but he's obviously been given the
license.
The license to go and do that. They've said to him, you can go and do that. If you lose the ball, you lose the ball. And to me, that's that makes for a much more entertaining game of football. The sort of thing that fans can really get behind. Even if you do get beat, at least you're trying to have a go, and you're trying to put the opposition defence on the back foot. And the one thing Nathan Jones did get right in his press conference afterwards, the one thing he did get right was in his press conference afterwards. He basically said we were on the front foot the whole time. We were trying to go forward, and he was spot on. But I mean, I think we could have had some. Alfie, I know you're going to talk about. You interviewed him afterwards. I mean, it would have been an amusing one to. When did you think that game was slipping away from you, Nathan? I mean, to me, he desperately would have wanted to win, obviously, and he would have been an absolute insufferable twat if they had won. It would have been knee slides and praying and pumping the fists and all this stuff. So the amount of stick he got from the crowd, which was very funny, I don't think it was overdone at all, because exactly, he's reaping what he sowed with just his personality and the way he is. And fans of other clubs who were never managed by Nathan Jones in the Premier League can just shut up, because that's what he brought upon himself. But he had his warnings. He had warnings in the first 10 minutes, the way the game was going to go if he didn't change anything, and he didn't change anything until he was 4-0 down. And so he didn't have a great day. And I don't really sort of care what he does. At the end of the day, he's got Charlton punching above their weight. They got promoted last year in the playoffs, so they should be in the bottom three, really, by rights.
They had a pretty decent defensive record going into this game, didn't they? But it's not. You are right. It's just that we know what he would have been like had they won, and that's what fuels it all, isn't it? Because you're just trying to what's going to come. So
at the end of the day, he's doing a decent job there. They're still above us in the league after all.
Yeah.
So you can't knock it too much. But yesterday was obviously our day, and it definitely wasn't his. And that was quite funny.
I've got a feeling they go to, is it Stoke next, which was his other previous club where it didn't work out. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, before the game, Nathan Jones was very humble in the press. He said, the Saints are a good team, and I've learned from the mistakes I made and all this sort of stuff. And he said before the game he just wanted business as usual. It's just about winning the game. And to be fair, from his team, it was anything but business as usual. Because as you said, mine, I mean, they'd lost just once in 23 home matches in 2025. They'd won 18 of them. They'd made the Valley a fortress. And yet within 22 minutes of that game, they were made to look like one of the worst teams to ever play in the Championship. They were destroyed from the start. So you have to say that Nathan Jones got it wrong. The players didn't, they weren't aggressive enough at the back. They were sort of too careless at the top maybe. And but ultimately, I think Saints were really good, and you've got to give credit for that. The players, they were clinical, they were aggressive, they were up for it. Everything that we wanted to see from them.
So what's the difference then, Alfie? What suddenly kind of clicked? Is it about the opposition? And we had those two, I was going to say easier games. That's probably a bit disrespectful, but we've got a bit of confidence going into to that game. Is it just as simple as he's pushed the two central midfielders a bit closer together? Because it's the same squad of players, isn't it? And you look at players like Finn Azaz, who we're kind of finally seeing the player that we thought we would. So he's getting a tune out of him. So he's doing something right.
Yeah, well, I mean, Adam Armstrong's contributed to 5 goals in the last 3 games that Tonda's done. 2 goals, 3 assists. Finn Azaz has got 3 goals and an assist. And this was sort of the biggest problem at the top end of the pitch, wasn't it, really? I think there's a number of things. The last 2 games against, they rode their luck against QPR and they got the result. And that would have obviously breeded confidence. And then they played a really poor Sheffield Wednesday side and beat them as well. So winning's a habit. So I don't doubt that week has given them a bit of confidence, a bit of enthusiasm. The players maybe that lost a little bit of that when they were getting trodden down every week. They had an international break, probably at a good time to sort of reset some legs and this kind of thing. But also I do think that, from what we're hearing, the detail on the training ground is at a higher level now. It probably is. I think I defended Will Steele a lot, but I think that, it was never going to work, I think, is what seems to be the belief. Yeah. And Tonda's I think he's doing the simple things right. He's playing players where they should be playing. He's put some experience back into the team, the likes of Jack Stevens, who's come back in, and he's not necessarily a stand-up performer all the time, but he's somebody who is important, I think, to have on the pitch. What he's got Adam Armstrong doing, rather than sort of just constantly being on the final line and trying to get balls in behind to him, having him sort of drop in and link up play, something we haven't really seen from him. That's going really well. And again, I think that the license to play it around the back a bit more as well. Will still wanted the team to get forward as much as possible. And in principle, that sounded like something that we all wanted. We all wanted them just to get the ball forward, let's attack. And it leads to chances and crosses and XG. But ultimately, these players, they probably want to play on the back. They're used to doing it under Russell Martin. They're now being given the license to actually knock it around them a few times, take their time. Gavin Bazinu's getting the ball. And they're pulling players, they're pulling the opposition out, and that's creating the space in behind. So I think the detail, the enthusiasm, the motivation, there's probably a lot of things.
It's a bit of a hybrid, isn't it, to what we've seen before? Because, like you say, they were knocking it around a bit, but there's still there was the direct balls, and those balls that Harwood-Bellis was playing yesterday were like he used to when he first came.
Goals 3 and 4, as we said, mine. Goals 3 and 4. It's 3 passes in the third goal. It's literally 3 passes from the box to the opposition box, and I think it's 2 passes from the halfway line to the goal. In goal 4, so they're doing what Will still wanted in terms of getting it forward quickly, but they're in the right place to do it, I guess. And I think obviously effort levels gone up, whether it's conscious or subconscious. I think effort levels have gone up, and I think that the players have to put their hands up with that. But they're winning games now. So
Adam Armstrong, Glenn, I think we said kind of like one of the most prolific Championship strikers. He's backfiring and scoring some goals and best game in years. And we spoken on this podcast about how he couldn't play at number 9 and something had to change. And then he's kind of proved us all wrong a bit.
Well, I mean, we've said that. It's more nuanced than that. He can't play up against defenders. He can't play backing into defenders. Though remarkably, there was one incident yesterday where they were terrified of him. And he was stood there with his back to goal, and he was like rolling the ball under his foot. And he had 2 defenders behind him, and eventually he teed it up for Cienza, and he lashed it over the bar, I think. But so the way he was playing yesterday it's just very intelligent. The way he just stepped into the big gap that Charlton obligingly left us in midfield, and he was able to pick up the ball and turn. And I would imagine that Charlton commentators and the Charlton bench were going mental at their centre halves for not following him, but it looked like the centre halves didn't really want to follow him in there. But it only works if you get the willing runners from midfield. So the third goal from Caspar Jander, that's brilliant, because if you see that one from saw a replay that was from like behind our goal, and you see the Charlton player who is supposed to be with Caspar Jander is puffing. He's just not going with him. It's the classic case of a guy breaks in midfield and no one goes with him. And but that only happens if Adam Armstrong is allowed to step into that space and turn and play the pass. The willing runners going forward. Tom Fellows. I mean, if he gets 1-on-1 against the fullback, then the opposition is in trouble, and their left back must be having nightmares about that. Because I mean, how many times did he just go past him? I mean,
well, there's a lot of chat about him in the comments. I think it's Barry says Fellows mixed up his attacking game a bit more by going outside the fullback as much as he cut inside, which was making him a bit predictable in previous games. So he had that about him, which was good to see.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we've also moaned about the formation and the wing backs and stuff like that,
and all of us.
Well, it doesn't. It work when it works well. It's great, but if the wing backs don't get forward and provide some width on the sides, it doesn't work, and then you end up with a flat back five, and then it's horrible. But just look at that first goal. With Fellows going down the wing and crossing it, and the other wing back comes flying in and scores. And that was a brilliant header as well. I mean, I'm not Ryan Manning's biggest fan at times, as you know, but that was superb. And you compare that, his determination to get to that ball and head it in, compared to what the very similar chance he had against QPR, where he came in at the back post and he just didn't look like he wanted to go there, and eventually, and the ball eventually just sort of like went nowhere, and the chance went. So. And that first goal was obviously massively important. So there were so many things that were better. But it's interesting, just picking up on something you said about the sort of like slightly modified way that we're playing. What we were doing yesterday,
hybrid sort of way, isn't it?
Yeah, we were playing the ball around at the back, but once we got into midfield, we weren't trying to. The first thought was to go forward, and that hasn't always been the case. Yeah. Especially when we were in the Premier League, the first thought was always to knock it straight back to the centre halves, and then that caused our own problems, because then the press just like totally closed in on us. But we're looking to go forward, or we certainly were yesterday, and if you do that, you're going to put a lot of teams under pressure. But I do think Nathan Jones picked the perfect tactics to get hammered by us. He really did, because he left his team too open. And in the context of the Championship, we've obviously got some good players, and you can't allow them that amount of space.
It was a good afternoon, Alfie, for Cam Bragg. And I'd imagine as someone that's followed the under-21s like you have, you've been to loads of their games and followed them quite closely. You must have been quite pleased to see him getting a start yesterday, because it wasn't the best of debuts against Blackburn.
Well, I think he was thrown to the wolves against Blackburn, personally. Look, obviously, at the end of the day, he's a 20-year-old professional footballer, so he has to take responsibility for any mistakes that he makes on the pitch, and that's fair enough. And I'm sure he did when it comes to that Blackburn game, but he shouldn't have been thrown into that situation. He was thrown into a game where the hosts were clearly with their tails up. They were coming at Saints, and he was put into a midfield pivot with Jack Stevens, who, I mean, is not a midfielder. So, that was Will Steele throwing him to the wolves for me. This time he had a chance to get settled in, and he was brilliant. To be fair, Cam Bragg, I didn't actually realise how good he was until I sort of watched it back a little bit, because at the time I felt that he just did all the sensible things right, and his passing stats are brilliant, and Glenn pointed out to me on X that he flew into some tackles as well, and he absolutely did. He was really intense against the ball, but also he's involved in a couple of those goals, as I've already mentioned, with the passing out, and I didn't realise that quite so much of the play had actually gone through him, and it allows Caspar Jander that license to bomb forward and get beyond the final line. And I thought it was a really bold decision to play Cam Bragg over Flynn Downs, even if he's not 100% fit. In a game like that, in a game where I thought they were going to be going into a bit of a lion's den, I thought that it would be, it was a big call, and maybe it was too clever. But actually, it's got to the point now where he's going to start over Flynn Downs. Surely you can't bring Flynn Downs into the team on Tuesday, even if he's fully fit, over Cam Bragg.
No. Hold that thought. I mean, we'll talk about Leicester in a minute, but Leicester in their last game had Harry Winks and Oliver Skipp in midfield, so that's quite a lot of experience there.
Yeah.
So that will be a little bit of a different test, but
and it'll be interesting to see what call Tonda makes there then. But just to the point, mine, I'm really pleased for him. He's a brilliant lad. He's captain of 21s. He takes all the set pieces. He's the talisman really from midfield. And Russell Martin always really liked him because as a number 6, he's a very much Flynn Downs mould in terms of a bit of a metronome with the passing. But he showed a different side of the game, as Glenn said, about the intensity and the tackling and things like that as well. So a really difficult year for him last year with a loan which sort of didn't go well. He got bombed out of the squad, came back to Saints 21s. It's never a glorified thing to do, but he'll have enjoyed that for sure.
Favourite goal of the 5, Glenn? Third one?
Probably the first one, to be honest.
Okay,
probably the first one, but yeah, because of the
importance,
the desire of Ryan Manning to get into the box, and the fact that it went in off the bar as well. That always looks good. But no, I mean, all the goals were good. It's hard to. I mean, Azaz dancing around the keeper. You don't often see that these days, do you? Forwards actually taking the ball around the goalkeeper and slotting it in. So that was a good goal as well. But yeah, you could make an argument for all of the 5. I think they were all good goals. But
I think we should do a poll on the socials.
Yeah,
like, goal?
Maybe so.
Yeah. Goal of the week.
Yeah, goal of the week.
Just because we can.
Just actually, one more thing to say about Cam Bragg is that it wasn't so long ago when we played Watford that we only had one midfielder. That was Shea Charles, and we had to put Jay Robinson there, and we had to put Ryan Fraser there. And we've had the game that Alfie was talking about against Blackburn, where we ended up with a midfield with Jack Stevens in it. So we've been short in that area this season. If you look at it now, you've got Cam Bragg has shown that he can play there. You've got Caspar Jander, who's one of the first names on the team sheet now. You've got Shea Charles back in a couple of weeks. You've got Flynn Downs still kicking around when he's not ill, and you've got Amo-Ameyaw just signed. So there's now all these players competing for that position, which is those 2 positions in the current formation that we're playing, and we're obviously going to keep on playing that formation whilst the results are as they are at the moment. So yeah, it's an interesting change in dynamic in the midfield area.
And Glenn, people spoken about Romeo, haven't we?
Yeah, Glenn, people will say what about Aribo? What about Matsky? But I think that Tonda sees those midfielders as number 6s, and I think he sees those 2 players as number 10s probably. And I think that Aribo will play on the right hand side of the striker if he does ever play. So just a mention to him.
Yeah. Does this mean that he gets the job now, Glenn? I mean, I kind of think that we were getting teed up to be for that announcement that was going to come anyway. But it's 3 straight wins. I was trying to think, if we'd have bought somebody in during the international break, I don't know that anybody else would have come in and got a better result than that. That's the thing. It just could not have gone any better for them. If they're planning on giving him the job, then that's one of the 3 ticked off, isn't it, in terms of results?
I believe that if he beats Leicester on Tuesday, he'll get the job. Basically, regardless of what happens at the Millwall game, I just think if he beats Leicester on Tuesday, he will probably get the job. You can argue it either way to the cows come home, whether he should or he shouldn't. The fact remains, on the negative side, he has very, very little experience. He's managed 3 games. Leicester will be the 4th, where the result has been the most paramount thing. He's only managed 10 games at development level at under 21s, where the result is secondary to player development. Yeah. Prior to that, he's been an assistant manager. That's all he's done. I'm not saying, that sounded patronising, but as an assistant manager, you are basically doing what the actual manager tells you to do, and you're doing balls, bibs, and cones, aren't you? It's that sort of thing. So he has very, very little experience. And as I said the other week, this is one of the best jobs that's available. You've got a chance to, with a squad that should be in the shake-up to get promoted, and you could find yourself a Premier League manager in 6 months if you get it right. So do you want to give a job to someone with that little experience? However, he's won 3 games out of 3. The squad is playing for him. And as we said earlier, no matter what the players say, they weren't playing for Will Still. Things are going better. I mean, we're winning games at the end of the day. I mean, I think we've beaten 3 poor teams, but you can only beat what's in front of you. And to be honest, if he keeps winning, they're going to find it very difficult not to give him the job, because if they gave it to someone else who then started losing a couple of games, they're going to look like idiots. They're going to look like idiots. So in some ways they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If he gets the job and then immediately he's appointed, we lose a couple, then people are going to say, "Oh, this is Sport Republic trying to be clever again." I think they'll end up appointing him because it ticks a lot of boxes for Sport Republic. He's happy to play the young players. It was originally planned for him to be the successor to Will Still, so as it turns out, but just not this soon. It ticks the "aren't we clever" box for Sport Republic a little bit. So yeah, I think we'll end up appointing him. You could do with some more experience as an assistant manager. Paul Trollope has obviously just left, so they would possibly need to address that, or maybe they're just happy to go with basically the wonder kid and hope he keeps winning. But I think that's the way it's going at the moment, because I don't think they'd be brave enough to make, especially if he beats Leicester, I don't think they'd be brave enough to make a decision to bring someone else in.
Leicester's going to be a bigger test for him, I think, Alfie, for sure. But this is just classic Sport Republic, that they seem to get themselves into these situations where, 2 days ago we're going, it'd be madness to do it, and now we're like, yeah, they have to do it.
Yeah, I don't think all of us are saying they have to do it. I hear what Glenn's saying, and I think he's absolutely right. But he doesn't have any experience. That's the thing. He's not been in a team which is struggling, not been there in the Championship when you've lost a couple of games in a row. And we don't know how the players will respond to that and all this kind of thing. So yeah, I think it would be a massive risk. It'd be a lot of unknowns there. But ultimately, the pressure, to resist a manager who's winning every game he's taking is going to become too much at some point. I would personally, the original plan was to give him this 3-game week and then sort of reassess at the end of it. I would at least sort of see what happens this week before I rush into anything. But if he's winning and if his players are playing for him and if he's happy being on an interim basis, then why rush into anything? Obviously, the pressure comes when he turns around and goes, "Well, I've won 4 games, I want a contract, or I'm out of here." That's
or
when
someone else comes in for him. Is that an option? Do you think? If
maybe,
we're messing him around a bit,
maybe that's when it becomes difficult. So yeah, I have to wait and see on that one, I guess. I know for a fact that the board, Dragan, they have got certain people that have advised them, get an experienced manager. Don't do this. Don't take the interim way out. Get an experienced manager who knows the league and this kind of thing. But yeah, as Glenn says, it's going to be really difficult to resist it if he keeps on winning games.
Let's just do player of the week as well before we move on. We could name any of them really, I guess. Your standout, Alfie. Did anyone get a 10 out of 10 this week?
No 10 out of 10s, but
nine's good though, right?
Yeah, there was a 9 for Adam Armstrong, so I will go for Adam Armstrong because it's just the best I've ever seen him play, and I just think that he was integral to everything. Obviously, scored one of the goals, set up the next 2. The way that he played, I've not seen him do that before, and it feels like the solution to all of our problems in some ways. I know that that might not look the same again on Tuesday, but we haven't got that number 9 physical striker. He played it a different way, luring defenders out, making space for the runners, making Caspar Jander, or giving Caspar Jander the freedom, giving Tom Fellows the freedom, and yeah, I thought he was brilliant.
And Glenn, what about you? We need to put 3 more alongside him on our
3
more.
Poll.
So
Tom Fellows simply for the amount of creativity there was, from him, and he's playing as a defender basically, but he's got to have the engine to get forward and then still be able to take the fullback on, after making that run. So I thought he was excellent. Cameron Bragg, from the point of view of being a hell of a lot better than I think anyone expected him to be, apart from the manager probably. He was excellent. If I had to pick a third one, picking Cienza's boring, so because he does it every week. So I'll go for Finn Azaz. 2 goals. Okay, one was a tap in, but as you say, finally seeing the player that we thought we'd signed from Middlesbrough, and that's another tick in the Tonda Eckert box, is that the players that Johannes Spoor's bought in for a lot of money,
absolutely,
we're now seeing them play and play well, whereas Fellows and Azaz didn't really do much under Will Still, and half the time they weren't even in the team. So if Tonda can get Damien down scoring goals, then he definitely needs to get the job, because
he's a miracle worker.
That's the one thing he's got left to do. I did think there was a chance when he took aim from 30 yards
when he came on
Saturday, but
Still no.
So.
Still no. Anything else on Charlton before we move on? I feel like I could talk about it for another half an hour, to be honest. But we're going to get on and preview the Leicester game. I think we pretty much covered everything off. I don't want to get into why we didn't score in the second half or the sloppy goal we conceded. I feel like it's not.
The second half is what it is, isn't it? The game's already won. The game's over. I mean, what I would say is that they did lose concentration a little bit. There was a couple of moments, I think, with Nathan Wood sort of getting himself into a bit of trouble at the back, and Bazunu missed a cross, and it wasn't perfect. But I don't know what you're about to say, Glenn. But I think it was the game was won.
The Nathan Wood thing. He's got to stop picking fights with people. There were a couple of occasions where he was in front of the player, running towards the ball, Lieber, Charlton striker, and he could have just got his foot to it and cleared it. But it's almost like he slows down to initiate contact to try and, prove how big and tough he is and all that stuff. And he invariably ends up losing the ball or giving away a free kick. And, do you think someone like Virgil van Dijk could deliberately initiate contact rather than just clear the ball? No, just clear the ball. Stop. You don't have to prove you're the hardest man out there. Just defend properly. And it's about consistency, isn't it? Defending, as I always say. It's about doing the simple things and doing them well. You don't have to prove you're the big tough guy against the big striker. Just clear the ball. Yeah, that irritated me a little bit from him in the second half. But the second half was dead, wasn't it? Because and everyone got what they wanted out of it. We got to rest players for Tuesday's game.
They didn't get hammered.
And they didn't get annihilated because Jones, I mean, from the moment he made that substitution at 4-0, Nathan Jones was just concerned about not getting beat by 10.
Yeah.
And whilst that would have been funny, I don't think it was ever going to happen.
No, that's fair. Before we crack on, a quick shout out to the competition that we ran this week. Josh Starks, one of our brilliant TSP patrons, has won our giveaway over on X. You'll be getting one of our new Leo t-shirts. We'll be sending that your way. And in the Patreon WhatsApp chat, Sean took home the other prize. So well done to you both. Because it's Black Friday, it's a week now, isn't it? Not just a day. Because it's Black Friday week, we've got 15% off site-wide at shop.totalsaints.co.uk. There's no code needed. It's automatically applied at the checkout, and that offer is going to run until midnight on Friday. And for our Patreons, we're giving you 20% off all week. Your exclusive code is up on Patreon, and it's also in the WhatsApp group now. So you can treat yourself to something nice, maybe a hoodie or a pint glass or a coaster. And now on Tuesday night, we're back at St Mary's to face Leicester. And I'm pleased to say that Reedy from Leicester Fan TV is back with us to help preview the game. Welcome back to TSP, Reedy. How are you? All good?
Yeah, all good. It's been a few bad years for hopefully both of us. So back to championship action. Let's go.
You're in a safe space. You're amongst friends. I think it's probably fair to say you were expecting things to be a little bit easier this time round. It's been a tough start, hasn't it? Like us.
I think from what I've seen so far this season, I in a weird way, it sounds like it's the league got worse because a lot more teams are drawing more games and whatnot. But overall, I wouldn't say we were going to run away with it like we did last time. But I thought we'd be doing better than we are at the moment.
I think someone after the game yesterday said you've been grinding rather than flowing. Is that a fair kind of summary? I assume they were talking about the game.
Yeah, we have been. Yeah, that's been our season so far. Again, we're struggling now without the striker up front in Vardy. A lot of other players have not been doing what they did 2 years ago, and don't get me wrong, we're still scoring goals, but we're not scoring enough goals to win the game. And like I say, that there's been the times now, I think that probably 5 or 6 games at home this season where we've gone 1-0 up and probably deserve to be cruising in that time, and then just suddenly just drop off when we can see the goal, and it always ends up in a draw, and we just go, there's another draw for us. But yeah, I think the wins we've got, I think we've deserved them. I think the draws we've got, we probably could have edged them and got a win, but like you said, it's not been the easiest league so far this season.
And you had a lot of turmoil in the summer as well, didn't you? Like we did. It's always difficult when you come down, and then there's been a lot of change and new manager as well. So, what were the expectations? Were you expecting it to be a toughie?
Going down from last season, I was kind of hoping that we probably would be in the top 6 majority of the season. I think, again, the biggest loss of losing Vardy, I think that's cost us massively, because now we've got 3 strikers who in total at the moment scored 4 goals, only just because of yesterday's goal. It was 3. But yeah, I think we're not to the level we need to be at the moment. But I think we're slowly creeping up there, and hopefully after Tuesday night, depending on what that result is, we've got another Saturday game against Sheffield United, which again, if we look at it, if that's 6 points or 4 points or even 3 points, we're slowly creeping up back to the league where we want to be.
You started to turn it around though. The form is looking a bit better. I think won the last 2 or undefeated in the last 2 after a couple of about 3 games in a row, wasn't it, that you lost, I think, and then you started to sort of turn things back around a bit.
Yeah, we were quite fortunate to beat Norwich in the game before the international break. We scored very late on with one of our better players this season in Jordan James. And then normally after the international breaks, because there's been a few already, we've always not really kicked on from that international win before the international break. And this time we have. We obviously got a result yesterday against, trying to think who we played now. It feels like it was ages ago.
Stoke, was it?
That was it, Stoke. Yeah, again, a team in form, top 3rd in the league. We weren't expecting to go in there and win, but again, the last few results have kind of gave us a bit more positivity. And I think the biggest thing about yesterday was the fact that 2 players one who hasn't scored in nearly a year in Dakar, Mabadidi, who hasn't scored or I don't think even assisted this season, scored yesterday, which gave him a bit of confidence as well. So hopefully we can kind of push on from yesterday.
So what can we expect from Tuesday night? Who's going to cause us some problems? How are you going to set up for this one?
So this is the thing. I would say the first name is Fatawu, but the last few games, I think a lot of teams have sussed us out in the fact of if you just put 2 or 3 men on him, he's not going to even get touched. So it's hard because, again, we're not going to say any of the strikers because if they don't score, we're not going to be shocked. Mabadidi, maybe if he scored, he could kind of cause a bit of a threat. But I think other than that, I think I've got to have to say Jordan James because this season, since he brought him in on loan, he's been one of probably the best players and one of the better quality players we've got since he's joined. So that's really it. Really, I think at the moment this is the thing. This is probably why we're not in the position we want to be because not really any of our players are performing to the highest abilities.
It's going to be a different game, isn't it, Glenn? Had we played this at the start of the season, I know it's only been a few weeks, but I think we'll be a little bit more confident potentially going into this. Otherwise, it could have been quite a turgid affair.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, it would have been 2 teams who were, both getting to grips with having different players and playing a different way, different managers. I was surprised that Cifuentes got the Leicester job, to be honest, because I didn't think what he'd done at QPR really warranted getting that job. There was a couple like that, like Rob Edwards when he got the Middlesbrough job. I didn't think he deserved that. So I don't really know. I'll be interested in what you think of Cifuentes. But I look at Leicester's team on paper, and there are still some very good players in there. I think what will give us a few problems. I've looked at the midfield you had out yesterday was Skip and Winks, and whilst that's not the quickest about the park, that's a lot of experience there. Good players, so that'll be an interesting battle because when we played against Charlton, we had a 20 and a 21-year-old in there, I think, or they might be 19 and 20, both, and got a combined weight of about 12 stone between them. So that will be an interesting battle in the centre of midfield. But Leicester are always, it's Fatawu every time. Fatawu against Ryan Manning is just horrible. It was just been horrible. The last few seasons that's come about. It's just been awful. So we've obviously got to have a better plan than we have had to sort him out, and Mabadidi has caused us problems as well. So,
Glenn, would you do something as bold as to bring Wellington in against Fatawu, or even though Manning has scored and all this kind of thing?
If Tonda Eckert is going to be more concerned about the defensive side of things, he may think after Saturday that we can go in and blow them away. I think that would be slightly foolhardy thing to do because Leicester are a much better side than what we've played under this manager so far. But yeah, you could certainly try Wellington, or at least have him as an option to bring on at half time if Manning is struggling. Manning's good going forward. We've always known he's relatively good going forward, but I think he's a terrible defensive player. I mean, it's like yesterday. He had to go at shoving their forward into the goalkeeper, didn't he? And it's just like, just defend properly. Just stop being an idiot. But he seems incapable of doing that. So that is one area that does worry me. If assuming that Fatawu plays out on the right, I assume he still does. So yeah, they're the sort of areas that that concern me a little bit about Leicester. I think they're a good side, but you can see just from that team on paper, it's not the most inspiring team from a going forward point of view, apart from those two guys on the wing. I don't know much about the Jordan Jones. Where's he from? He's on loan from somewhere.
He was at Birmingham 2 years ago, and he scored 2 goals against us for when we played them 2 years ago. Because Birmingham got relegated, he left to go to Rennes in the French league. I don't think he was getting into their team, so we looked to snap him up on loan. And I think if we wanted to get him, he's only £5 million. So right now, I'm just like, when can we do it? Because at the moment, he's probably a bargain at that price.
He's a Welsh international, Glenn, who obviously my head scout, George, has said, to be fair, is a very good player and someone to watch out for.
Was the plan, to replace Vardy, really? Because obviously, like they knew he was going. So is it just the people they bought in aren't going to deliver the same sort of goals, or is it they need a bit of time to get up to speed? Because we had the same thing. We were talking about it for the first 5 or 6 games of the season. Like not getting a decent striker in was costing us points, and it sounds like it is you as well.
Yeah, I think even for the last few years, we've always said, we're having to still rely on Vardy to score goals, just because of the level of he's at compared to anyone that we could probably get in is nowhere near the level. So it's hard, and we're facing it now with no really real striker to even be in contention with scoring 10 plus goals this season. Daka, when we first brought him in, back when we were in Europe, which is funny to say now, but yeah, he was meant to be Vardy's replacement because at that time he was banging in goals with Haaland. Now he's been here for 4 or 5 years. He's probably scored a maximum of 20 goals, and that's probably reaching. But like I said, he scored yesterday, a very decent finish as well. But yeah, and then we've got Jordan Ayew, who I absolutely despise because of how he kind of plays. He plays a defensive sort of style that I just don't even think even needs to be. He got given the number 9, which I'm like, that's just absolutely a joke. And then we've got.
Should they have retired it? Do you think?
Giving
it a couple of years off.
There was a debate where it's like, do you really give it to someone who's not Vardy because he's gone, and do you retire it? But I'm like, there's going to be more number 9s going forward that probably will never get to the level of him, but will be somewhat close, and would think. If you've got that to kind of compare to Jordan Ayew, then surely anyone could take that number 9 and go, yeah, it's mine now. But yeah, but then our other striker in Carranza, we obviously brought him in on loan as well from Feyenoord. I think he got 5 goals last season for them. He wasn't really playing, and he was in the MLS before that. And when you look at YouTube and you see all the highlights of how great these players are, you look and think, do you know what? He looks a decent player, but he just looks a bit too lightweight for this league, which, again, we know that this league needs a bit more of a strength sort of side of things. So
I assume with the striker side of things is that, obviously, if you want to get in any sort of guarantee in this division, you've got to spend a bit of money. I assume you've had to pull the purse strings in a little bit. Obviously, there's all the stuff going on in the background with the financial fair play stuff. So with Vardy going, I assume there was just not the finance there to go out and spend 15 million on a replacement. Bear in mind, you've already had Daka and Ayew and other options who probably were seen as being good enough to play in this division.
Yeah, well, at the start of the season, I was all up for Ayew being the number 9, but because of how he kind of plays tactically, he never stays up there. Like, if you say he's the number 9, he'll be in midfield half the time. So, but that might be the style we play and how he wants to use him. But for me, yeah, like I say, I don't think the club spent any money since January last season because we just think we couldn't afford it. That's why we at the end of last day of the window this season. Just gone. We brought in 3 or 4 loan players, and that was it. No money spent at all. So yeah, we're kind of strapping for cash, and we're apparently meant to be hearing this point deduction news next week. Which
I was going to ask, when is someone going to finally mention the points deduction? But there you go, we got there.
Well, it's building up to it.
Well, yeah, we've kind of been in a bit of a situation where we're thinking, when is it going to happen? If it's going to happen, because obviously last season we escaped it for something else. I don't know the whole facts and stories because it's just like what's this, what's that. But we're apparently meant to know next week if we're getting it, and if it is, how many. People started saying about 9 or 12 points, but apparently it could be only 6 now, which, looking after the last 2 games and the 2 wins, and if we're, as Leicester fans, we're looking at, if we can get 2 more wins in the next 2 games until Saturday, then them 6 points has just been taken off the 2 games we've just played, we would have played. So yeah, I'm glad it's come now instead of the start of the season, because I would have hated it being a negative from the start. But yeah.
Is it fair? I mean, what's the mood like among the fan base? Is it kind of like, well, it is what it is. It's going to happen. It's done. We've got to take the medicine, if you like, or are they going to be absolutely fuming about it?
No, a lot of fans are kind of like been out, like just getting used to it, because we know it's going to happen, or we know something's coming, or if it doesn't, then we'll be all very, very shocked, because there's been a lot of things behind the scenes the last few years where, I don't know if you heard, but like our owner and the director of football, there's been a lot of talk about bad wages and bad signings and all that. Like I say, we bought Skipping for 25 million, which for me is absolutely ridiculous for a player worse than Winks, who we bought for less than 10 million. So there's been a lot of that, and our director of football, John Ruckin, there's been many chances, and it even got to the point against Norwich where there was actually chance of death threats on it, which is ludicrous and very, very much over the line. But in the last few weeks, we've had our owner come out and speak to us about he wants the club to get close. He wants to have more communication with the fans, and it just seems maybe a bit too, I don't know, what's the word? A coincidence that all this comes out just before a point deduction is maybe going to be announced. So I don't know. Again, it's hard to describe. I'm kind of to the point where if we get a point deduction, so be it, because we know the situation is we've overspent.
Yeah, you just want it done so you can get on.
You want it done, and hopefully, like I say, a few weeks ago before the Norwich win, we were in a position where if we get the point deduction, we will be in the bottom 3. But now, if we're looking at it, we've got 2 wins on the bounce. We've had 6 points. If we can get another however many points in the next 2 games, then 6 or 9 points will make it look a lot better than it is.
I wonder if you can appeal it as well, because that tends to happen, doesn't it? They'll tell you that it's 9 points, you'll appeal it, say we'll take 3, then you'll settle on 6, and that might even drag on a little bit longer. So for us, Alfie, this is going to be it's going to be a great game now on Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to it, but there are some decisions to be made. You mentioned Wellington already. A few people in the chat saying about Wellington, and could be a better defender, could be an option. Flynn Downs as well. I know on Saturday you said he was kind of rested because he wouldn't play 2 games in a week, and they were saving him for Tuesday. But then we've got Cam Bragg coming in and doing well. You can't change the team, can you? I don't think after a 5-1 win.
Well, he has changed the team. He's changed teams on both occasions. Obviously, they beat QPR, made 1 change. They beat Sheffield Wednesday, made 1 change. So maybe he makes 1 change again, and it's a very subtle change. I mean, there are certain things that aren't going to switch. So, I mean, Bazunu was going to play in goal for sure. The defensive 3 are going to play again for sure. Tom Fellows is going to play at wing back again for sure. Caspar Jander will obviously play. Adam Armstrong will play up front. Finn Azaz and Leo Senza will play either side of him. So for me, the only 2 potential points of change, unless there's an injury we don't know about, is obviously the 2 you mentioned, the left back, possibly in the midfielder. I mean, I know that it's great to have a Leicester fan on because we get a real view of how the players have actually played this season, and football's not played on paper. But like when you look at the players on those wings, Mavididi and Fatawu, it does scare me a little bit. And Glenn made a really good point about the midfield. Winks, Skip, Jordan James is very good for this level. So I don't think this is an easy game. We've lost the last 4 against Leicester in spectacular style on all occasions. Yeah. The 4-1 combustion a couple of years ago in September, the 5-0 hammering King Power right before the playoffs, the 2-0 up and losing 3-2 this time last year. And then obviously we lost to what was at the time the worst Premier League team in history. It felt like they were losing every week, hadn't scored a goal since Christmas, and yet we still found a way to get absolutely battered by them and lose 2-0. So I don't think anyone's counting their chickens. It's a bit of a bogey team, Leicester, and obviously we don't need to mention the biggest bogey. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens. It'll be a great atmosphere though, mine. I think people are on the same page as you, mate. I think that St Mary's is going to be a totally different place to what it was 3 weeks ago, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll do some predictions in just a moment. Reedy, can I get a prediction from you for the game? How do you think this might go Tuesday?
Well, I'm going down there. I put the day off for it, which obviously is a bit of commitment for there. But I don't know, like you just said, there's so many results the last few games where we've actually shown up and done something. I think this season is a bit different because we've not got the likes of Vardy. But I'd be happy with a draw because we've always said if you get your 3 points at home and a draw away, you'd be more than happy with that. But in the situation we are with the point deduction looking like it's coming soon, I think we need the 3 points, and that's just how it is. So I'm gonna go with a fun 3-2 and just see a load of goals go in.
Fair dues. Are you bringing a few with you as well? Is the away end sold out? What's it looking like?
I don't know if it's sold out. Normally
it's a bit of a trek, isn't it, on a Tuesday night?
We normally do bring a full crowd wherever we go, even if it is midweek. There might be a few empty spots, but yeah, I think we do normally bring quite a lot down to you guys because our stadium is basically the same as your stadium, so
yeah,
it's basically
exactly the same, isn't it? Just different colour seats.
Yeah.
Just one more thing before you go, Reedy. Is that Asmir Begovic you've got in goal
at
the moment?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So we lost. Sorry, yeah, go on.
No. I just remember him from previous games when he was at QPR, and he got a load of stick for being ex-Pompey.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is that even though he was 35 years old or whatever and should have known better, he reacted and got himself in a right state, and then he let in a goal, and then he started chasing the referee. He was a bit of a twat, to be quite honest.
Yeah, well,
he played well on Saturday, didn't he? I think he was.
Yeah,
what I read, he pulled off a few blinders?
Oh, he's good goalkeeper, yeah. But I just question his.
When we first signed him on loan, I was thinking, oh god, it's just going to be another Danny Ward, isn't it? Because we all Leicester fans hate Danny Ward with a passion because of how
he was terrible.
Crap he was. But yeah, Begovic when he first came in, I was like, do we really need him? But now Stolicic, our main youth academy keeper, who we've obviously brought up from last season. He's done well, but since he's been injured, he's come in, and do you know what? As much as he is really old, he's actually done a very good job. And even with Stolicic coming back, I'd actually keep Begovic in goal. He might not be as good with his feet as what we want him to be, but yeah, his shot stoppings, even on Saturday, was crazy. He stopped probably two chances that should have been goals. So
it's either that or Joe Lumley on an emergency loan, isn't it?
You've still got Yannick Vestergaard.
Vestergaard and Wout Faes as well, which is obviously I know Vestergaard's a saintly.
Have I got time to mention the 9-0 again? Or
there you go.
I had
to. Cheers for joining us. Enjoy the game Tuesday, and we'll catch up with you later in the season.
No worries. See you in a bit.
Hello.
Cheers, Reedy. Am I right in thinking you're going on their podcast as well this week, Glenn?
Yeah, I might repeat some of that with more colourful language, depending on
make sure you get the points deduction in nice and early.
yeah, absolutely. 9 points.
Right, let's do some predictions. Glenn, I think you were the only person that predicted that we would win on Saturday. So,
was I?
I think Alfred and I both said draws. I think, but in our predictions league, we had over 130 people that got involved. We had 46 correct results, but unsurprisingly, no correct scores. The closest, James Wills, I think, said 5-3, and Britton Swisher, who went for a 4-0 win. So close, but nobody getting it bob on. Glenn, what do you reckon for Tuesday night?
Well, as I predicted the win against Charlton, I think I'll go for the same again. I think we're on a roll, obviously, and I think the players look like they've got the bit between their teeth at the moment, and I do, like Alfie said, I think there will be a couple of changes. I think possibly Flynn Downs will come back in. I'm not sure that they'll change the left back. Because I think the emphasis will be more on attacking.
Yeah, I agree.
It should help us that Leicester won't sit deep, because they're too good a side in the Championship to park the bus really. So I think they'll come out and try and play. I'm not. Though having said that, when you think about it, Vestergaard and Faes, there's not a lot of pace back there. So maybe they will sit quite deep. I don't know how they usually set up away from home. I just think we've got to put in a high energy performance. And then those two centre backs, those two central midfielders we talked about. Hopefully, we can give them a bit of a run around if we keep the energy high the whole game. So it could be a good one to sort of like, you know, use the bench to try and keep the energy levels high all game. And if we do that and things go our way, and if Adam Armstrong has another game from the gods like he did on Saturday, then we'll win it, and I'll go for a 2-1 win.
Brilliant. I take that. Alfie?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I'll back against the Tondelution slightly, and I'll just go for a 2-2 draw. Entertainment.
What?
The Tondelution.
Oh my word!
It will be televised.
Yeah, very good.
If you want to play along, all you need is your Patreon login. You'll find the leaderboard and how to play on the website. So you head to totalsaints.co.uk. Make sure you get your predictions in before the kickoff. And we will be back on Wednesday night. We're going to do a podcast on Wednesday night to chat through Leicester and look ahead to Millwall at the weekend as well. Just before we finish, any other bits and pieces? Obviously, Paul Trollope leaving. And going to Wolves, that was kind of like confirmed this week. Alfie, I think the bigger headline there was perhaps Adam Lallana moving to take over the under-21s. That seems like, I don't know, maybe I was expecting maybe he might have had a bigger role, but it seems like they kind of like moved him to the under-21s. Is that with a view to the future and his career, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of an interesting one. Obviously, I thought as soon as I was told, okay, well, the conspiracy theorists will be out in force about this one, because I'd had a million questions about Adam Lallana in the week before it. I've never seen so many people interested in a first-team coach. But he was at both of the games against QPR and Sheffield Wednesday. He was in a dugout and he was in the analysts, up with the analysts at the top of the St Mary's for the second game. But I think that he was considered for the role, the under-21s role in the summer. Obviously, they ended up getting Tonda when Will still wanted Adam Lallana as part of his team. And Tonda's obviously done brilliantly. So I think he's always had that in the back of his mind. And maybe it's just a case of Tonda's happy with the 21s team that he had, and he wants to keep that sort of continuity, and it gives Lallana a chance to be a number one, to do something which he hasn't really done before. Obviously, he's very early in his coaching days. He wants to be a manager eventually, presumably. This is a chance to kind of do it with a team that are playing well, and he'll have Matty Everton with him as well. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did raise my eyebrows a little bit, but yeah, I think a chance to be a number one and to actually lead a team is probably a chance on an interim basis that he'll take.
If they weren't happy, Glenn, I guess they could have got rid of him when Will still went, because a couple of the other coaches went then. So they must rate him. And
there's no doubt of that. I mean, they love him around Staplewood. To be clear, I mean, I've never met a player or a young player or old who hasn't said that he's been brilliant. So yeah. So
just from that, you would think that the under-21s manager role would suit him, but it does leave the question open if they, and it probably answers my own question. If they're not going to appoint Tonda Eckert, where does he go?
Yeah,
so I think it's another tick in the box for Tom to get in the main gig, which, I wouldn't be at all surprised if that happens in the next week or so.
Mm-hmm. Anything else before we finish?
I don't think so.
FPL, no. Glenn, how's that looking?
Oh, the long decline has begun. the long, slow descent into mid-table misery has begun.
That wasn't a loaded question either. I haven't checked. I just assumed.
Yeah. Okay. If we want to get into it, I had the choice between bringing in Eberechi Eze or Jeremy Doku.
Oh no!
I picked Jeremy Doku. So there you go. That's why I am what I am when it comes to it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right, thank you both. You can follow Total Saints Podcast on all the usual social media platforms. Have a search for Total Saints Pod on there. Check out the merch store as well. I mentioned the Black Friday discounts that we've got going on. That's shop.totalsaints.co.uk. I also mentioned earlier, you'll find us on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contributions. Lots of different tiers, lots of ways to get involved on there. And for each of the tiers, there's different perks, including some shout outs for patrons in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tiers. So thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Peter Montalabo, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, James Kibbe, Red 76 Tax, Michael Blackmer, and David Mansell. They're all in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Nick Reed, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Jonathan Cooper, Colt Baker, Anthony Thompson, Matt Hall, Mike Etheridge, Phil Horstrup, Mark Littlewood, James Bowby, Finn, John Bevan, Frank Thorpe, John Peacock and Andy. They're in our Mick Shannon tier. Thanks as well to Paul Castle Associates, one of our sponsors, along with Steamtown Brewery. Thank you to Glenn. Thanks again to Alfie as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you again on Wednesday night.